Greetings, Facebook Live. Welcome to WKYC's 3-Point Play. I am Ben Axelrod. This is Matt Florjancic. A busy day in Cleveland sports, a busy day for the Yes Movement in WWE. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first we start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We were out in Berea yesterday, but prior to that, prior to Joe Thomas's retirement ceremony, I was out in Independence and at Cleveland Clinic Courts, and it was one of those days for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It seemed like the next season of As the Cavs Turn got picked up. The day started with Tyronn Lue, the Cleveland Cavaliers head coach, of course, announcing that he was going to be stepping away from the team for an undetermined amount of time. There have since been reports that it's going to be about a week or so, or at least that's Ty's plan, to deal with some health issues. He's had some chest pains. I think whatever illness this is, and it hasn't been diagnosed yet, it's kept him out of at least 3 games or prevented him from finishing at least 3 games. He's missed numerous practices as well. But this is something that once he left that Bulls game on Saturday, it wasn't necessarily surprising because it felt like something more than usual was up. But just another twist in a season that's been full of them for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, this is just the latest of a long line of head-scratching situations that the Cavaliers have had to go through this year. But credit to Ty Lue for trying to stick it out as long as he could, but recognizing that he could no longer do it and needing to go get the requisite help. Because sick and or in the worst case scenario, and absent, Tyronn Lue is no good to the Cavaliers, but he's also no good to his family and himself too. He has some responsibilities to take care of first and foremost with his own health, and it's nice, and I applaud him for taking that step to do it. I know it can't be easy taking a leave of absence, especially from such a high-profile job like an NBA head coach, but credit to him for recognizing that he could no longer continue on the current trajectory that he was at, and he needed to address some health concerns.
Yeah, and from a basketball standpoint, at least if there's a silver lining in this, it's that this Cavs staff has been in place now for a few years. This is not the Browns where you have turnover after turnover after turnover. Larry Drew has coached this team before. He knows the system. He knows the plays. He knows the substitution patterns. And we saw that last night with the Cavs taking care of business. Really one of their most impressive efforts of the season, a 124-117 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks, and it was aided by the return of Kevin Love, who hadn't played since the end of January with that fractured left hand. He had 18 points, looked pretty good. Another all-star for this lineup, and for a team still dealing with a lot of injuries. I mean, it's just jarring to look at the pieces they're still missing, even with Kevin Love coming back. This was the best we've seen the Cavs play, it felt like, in quite some time.
Yeah, it absolutely was one of the best efforts that we've seen. And look, you could say defensively they didn't have it because they gave up 117 points. I think last night is indicative of why nobody wants to play the Milwaukee Bucks in a 7-game series in the playoffs, because whether you win or lose, A, you're going to get beat up, and B, you're going to get physically taxed, because there's going to be a crazy amount of effort that has to go into just trying to beat the Milwaukee Bucks just one time, let alone 4. But from the Cavaliers standpoint, they were able to stem every tide that Milwaukee threw at them. And it was different guys stepping up, but mainly LeBron and Kevin Love, kind of running things for him. And that's a good sign for this team when, after 7 weeks on the bench, Love can come into the game, start, play 25 minutes, score 18 points, pull down 7 rebounds, block a couple shots, hand out multiple assists, and do so against a playoff-caliber team. This Milwaukee Bucks team is a good team.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it. They're not too far behind the Pacers, who are right on the heels of the Cavaliers. This was a very important victory for the Cavaliers to get, and it was good to see everybody producing the way we expected them to when we brought this team together and then got it back together with Love coming back from injury.
If you guys have any questions or comments for us, leave them here on our Facebook page. We'll get to them as quickly as possible. And you said it there. You mentioned the playoff standings. These games matter. I mean, the Cavs, heading into yesterday, they were in 3rd place in the East, but they are only a half game ahead of Washington and Indiana and, a half game, that's you lose the game and you're tied. And, the Cavs, they're third right now, but they could conceivably be as low as 6th or 7th. And it's interesting now to keep an eye on these playoff matchups. You mentioned Milwaukee and what a tough matchup they are. A lot of that has to do with Giannis, obviously, and what he's capable of. Yeah, I just keep waiting for him to have that playoff series like LeBron against Detroit, where he just puts it all together, and you can see it's coming and coming, and hopefully it's not against the Cavs.
I was just going to say, hopefully it doesn't come against us.
But there's also Philadelphia is looming in a potential 3-6 matchup. Philadelphia is a tough matchup for Toronto, for Boston, for Cleveland. I mean, just from what Joel Embiid's capable of doing, they're such a unique roster. This is not going to be a run through the East, I think, like we've become accustomed to here in Cleveland. But the more the Cavs can help their cause here in these final 3 weeks, in these final, they have 12 games left now. Looks like LeBron, for the first time in his career, is going to play all 82.
Find some piece of wood to knock on right now, because every time we say something good about the Cavaliers, you know what happens on the backside of it.
Yeah, and so we'll see. But, I mean, these games matter, and at the very least with Larry Nance and Rodney Hood and Tristan Thompson still out, it was good to see the Cavs start to hit that mid-spring form that we've become so accustomed to here in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, it's actually kind of scary to look at it from an opposing standpoint. They scored 124 points, and some of their best players aren't active for these games.
Yeah.
That is a good sign for this Cavaliers team, that they're able to score even when they don't have a full complement of guys, because it still might be a week or so before they get that full complement back, barring injuries from everybody else. But and truth be told, they have played pretty much the entire season with different lineups because of injuries and trades and what have you. So this is nothing new, but it's nice to see them finally put something together against a worthy opponent and handle business.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Love hadn't played, I think it was since January 30th, and that was a week before they overhauled their roster at the NBA trade deadline. So hopefully Larry Nance and Rodney Hood especially, because I think those guys are going to be crucial to what the Cavs do in the coming weeks here. Hopefully they can get back in the lineup. Tristan Sanchez says here, I heard there could be a possibility that either the Cavs or the Warriors could not make this year's finals. I hope the Cavs make it. I think Golden State is very interesting right now because, when we talk about the trades that they made and trading the Brooklyn pick potentially and the idea of going all in, one thing that has to be factored in, I think, is the potential of injuries with Golden State. And Golden State's going through a lot of injuries right now. Steph Curry's nicked up. Klay Thompson's nicked up. Kevin Durant's going to miss a couple of weeks here.
Draymond Green got dinged up last night.
Yeah, I mean, that's their core four right there. And then you look at what Houston's been doing all season, really having a season a lot like those seasons we've become accustomed to from Golden State, at least as far as the regular season. Look, the East is going to be, like I said, a lot tougher draw than it's been at any point since LeBron returned. But if they can get through the East, it might not be even Golden State who's waiting for them out west.
No, it might be Houston, and that might be even worse than Golden State at this point. But until somebody beats Golden State in a 7-game series, I'm going to reserve judgment on that, because I've been high on Houston and James Harden before, and they've kind of fizzled down the stretch
Chris Paul, too,
run.
for that matter.
That's a good point. Him, too. But if they can find a way to put it together against Golden State, I tell you what, I don't often stay up late to watch games from the West Coast. I'm watching every one of those Western Conference Finals games if it's Houston and Golden State, because I think that could be awesome. And not just from who could the Cavs play perspective. I mean, legitimate, competitive basketball in the Western Conference, which is something we haven't seen since 2013.
Well, I'd go back actually to probably 2016 when Oklahoma City had the Warriors their heels in the Western Conference Finals. They were up 3-1. But that just the star power on the court that was in that series, you'd have that and then some in the potential Western Conference Finals between the Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Joey Cremo here says Toronto will be the real test. The Cavs will see that up close tomorrow with the Raptors coming to town for a 7 p.m. tip. They actually play the Raptors twice between now and the end of the regular season. So, yeah, I mean, Toronto has kind of separated themselves. Boston's been slumping a little bit. Toronto has really separated themselves as the top team in the Eastern Conference. And I know it seems like we say that every year, but they have switched up their style. They shoot a lot more threes. They do seem to be a more modern NBA team.
And they play extremely well at the Air Canada Center.
Yep.
Past the All-Star break, they had only 5 losses at home all season long. This is a team that has really kind of reinvented themselves in front of our eyes. They got beat by the Cavaliers last year, and they felt like, okay, where do we go now?
Last 2 years.
Yeah, especially last year, though, after having a very competitive Eastern Conference Finals in 2016, 2017 didn't turn out nearly as well as they thought. But they kind of reinvented themselves on the fly, did a self-check and said, okay, we know we have the talent. Let's find a way to make it work. And they've made some moves, and now they've really become the beast in the East. The question is, can they carry it over into the playoffs, which is something they have not been able to do in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think tomorrow is going to be a really, really exciting game. It seems like the Cavs have had one of these games on their schedule every year since LeBron returned, where there is this big threat in the East, and they have this big regular season matchup with the Cavs, and the Cavs blow them out. And maybe that was Boston, that game after the NBA trade deadline when the Cavs blew them up on Paul Pierce's jersey retirement night. But also, we've seen this Cavs team come into big games when they hosted Oklahoma City, when they hosted Houston, and get blown out themselves.
Yeah.
So I think tomorrow is going to be a really interesting litmus test for, is this Cavs team a different version of past teams, or is it the same?
Yeah, and this is going to be the opportunity for them to prove that everything that has happened in the past is in the past, and with a new lineup, they can do some new things. They are going to be a little bit hampered. I don't think they're going to get everybody back in time for tomorrow's game, but the good news is they do have Kevin Love back. LeBron is still playing actually playing at potential MVP level.
Yeah.
So all things considered, this is going to be the truest test that they get the rest of the way before the postseason starts, and I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out.
Yep. Eddie J. L. Fleming saying LBJ was definitely happy to have K-Love back last night. Hopefully we can get our team healthy and strong. That's one thing it seems like we haven't been talking about with this team, is that they have a legitimate all-star forward who hasn't been playing since January. And especially without Kyrie Irving on this roster anymore, we've seen throughout the year, I mean, Kevin Love was a legitimate all-star. I think maybe we underrated the effect that having Kevin Love would have on this roster. Speaking of all-stars returning, the WWE got an all-star back today when they announced that Daniel Bryan has been medically cleared. The expectation is that he'll have his first match back at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans next month. You and I are big WWE fans. We talk about it at our desks back there. We've talked about it on the show before. You saw my face light up like a little boy on Christmas.
Oh my goodness!
Today.
I wish I had a camera. that was epic. That was Happy Ben.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Don't see it often.
No, well, no, we do see it often, but like that excited and that like you were taken aback by it. It was probably a good thing you were sitting down.
Yeah, well, I saw the WWE tweet that Daniel Bryan's been cleared. It's been rumored and talked about now for a couple of weeks, but I saw the WWE tweet come out. I had to confirm it was the real account and not one of those fake Adam Schefter or Adam Scheftern accounts. But as I relayed the news to you, what was your first reaction that Daniel Bryan will be wrestling once again in World Wrestling Entertainment?
A little bit of surprise it actually got done.
Yeah.
Because it's been hinted at for so long, and you just thought it was the news that was never going to get here. But excited, a little nervous, a little tentative for Daniel's sake, because he does have that young family with him and Bree having a little girl within the last year. So I'm kind of nervous for him because he does wrestle a very fast, very aggressive style, and we even talked about him having to adjust that style. But overall, if indeed he is healthy enough to step in the ring, it's good for WWE. It's good for Daniel Bryan. and it's good for the fan base. It's a win-win-win situation so long as he can find a way to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm seeing a tweet here from Daniel Bryan that just came out saying goodbye to the ring was one of the hardest moments of my life, but thanks to the amazing people supporting me, I was able to keep fighting for my dream. This moment feels surreal, and I'm glad to be able to talk to you all at the beginning of SmackDown Live tonight. This is something, though, even from a sports perspective, Seth Rollins, the WWE superstar, tweeted about this. This is something that could have a potential impact in the football world. Daniel Bryan was undergoing these those crypto chamber, hyperbolic chamber treatments. I know Joe Namath has been a big proponent of them as well, but this is something where he's had serious not serious brain injuries, but concussion issues. So I guess serious brain injuries.
And post-concussion seizures, too.
Yeah, and so this is something where he's been searching for a cure, and I don't know if you could say he's found a cure or not, but this is something where it's a different avenue now for athletes and sports entertainers and anybody who's dealt with concussions. If he can come back and be successful in this could be a real win for people fighting when it comes to concussion science.
Yeah, it's a game changer if indeed more people are willing to give it an opportunity and see what it's all about. Ultimately, there needs to be something done to help people who have had concussions. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have. I have experienced a few of them. It is one of the most difficult things to deal with because you could be feeling great one day, and the minute you exert yourself, you think you're fine, and all of a sudden you have migraines, nausea, can't stand up straight, dizzy spells, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to sound. You really go from 60 to 0 in the matter of a heartbeat, and to find something that could potentially ease those tensions and potentially give you back what you've lost through these concussions, oh my gosh, game changer for everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I think it's going to be interesting to see what sort of workload he takes on, whether it's as sort of that part-time performer like Kurt Angle or Triple H, or whether he's a completely active wrestler again. It sounds like because he's cleared these tests, that's on the table as well. It looks like we're probably going to see him and Shane McMahon tag against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. But if you could pick one other opponent of a Daniel Bryan match we haven't seen yet, who would you want to see?
Ooh, probably one of the two guys that are main eventing the SmackDown side of WrestleMania. I would really love to see him face Shinsuke Nakamura. I would be worried about the Kinshasa, but I would love to see the match that they could put on, and I damn sure love to see what AJ Styles could do too.
Yeah, I think both of those guys, obviously, we haven't seen that, or at least haven't seen it on a big scale like WWE before. I'd like to see Brock Lesnar. That was a match we were supposed to get, I think it was in 2015 or 2014 when Daniel Bryan first won the Undisputed Championship. He was supposed to go on and face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, and when he had those issues the first time around, the plans got shifted and it wound up being John Cena. I think it would be such contrasting styles and just such a once-in-a-lifetime type of match that I would just love to see what that even looks like in a WWE ring.
I would agree with you that in theory it looks like such a dichotomy, but it would be entertaining. The only problem I have with it is I would be scared to death for Daniel Bryan because I've seen far bigger guys go up against Brock Lesnar and come away with concussions, with massive concussions, and other massive injuries that it was like, okay, that's on the shelf, but just keep it there under lock and key and don't go to it unless there's a case of emergency.
Yeah. We'll see. It's going to be really cool to see. It's going to be an exciting time in WWE. It's WrestleMania season. It's always an exciting time in WWE.
It's weird because it hasn't felt like it because it's been a late developing season because of all the intermittent pay-per-view events that we've had since the Royal Rumble. But, man, to get clarity like this, unbelievable. I mean, you look at the star power that you could have on a WrestleMania card. Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar. I mean, the list goes on, and I'd be remiss if I didn't remember Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking athletically probably the richest card of all time.
Yeah, and we've got Monday Night Raw here in Cleveland next week.
That's right.
John Cena versus Kane already been announced. I'm sure we'll be talking plenty about that in the days leading up to it and after it.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it there. But that's going to do it for today's WKYC 3-Point Play. He's Matt Florjancic. I'm Ben Axelrod. If you enjoyed the show, show. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be back with you on Facebook Live, breaking down all the latest in Cleveland sports. Thanks for watching, guys.